Interesting day, ladies and gentlemen, fellow patriots. It's Super Thursday, according to Joe Biden. Of course, he doesn't know where he is basically any of the time, but he should know where he is because I brought a lawsuit against him because he and his campaign intervened with YouTube months ago, got all of our videos pulled down from YouTube. I had to threaten him and his lawyer, not coincidentally, Williams and Connolly, the Clintons' lawyers, to put all the YouTubes back up. He didn't like the fact that I said on our radio show on Radio America, and we thank Radio America for allowing me to tell the truth, a great network that I'm on, not just with regard to this podcast, but our weekly show. You can go to radioamerica.com to get that podcast. You can go to freedomwatchusa.org. You can go to iTunes, Spotify, Patreon, nearly everywhere. Pick it up and share it. But I predicted that we would bring a citizens grand jury, which we will shortly in the next month or so, and hold Biden accountable for the Ukrainian bribery scandal, along with his half-wit son, Hunter Biden. So for that, the campaign intervened and got all of our YouTubes pulled down. Well, he's now in a court of law in Palm Beach, Florida. We will be noticing up his deposition. We will be proceeding, and we will hold him accountable. We also brought lawsuits against little Petey Buttigieg and also Elizabeth Warren. Of course, little Petey, he withdrew from the race yesterday, a real whore, as I might say. You know, my book, Whores, Why and How I Came to Fight the Establishment. Now he's a great friend of Joe Biden, hoping that Biden will nominate him as vice president if he wins the Democratic primary for the 2020 presidential election. Of course, the same thing for little Amy Klobuchar. She wants to be the female vice president of Biden. They're all whores. I mean, that's the bottom line. My book is relevant today as it was when I wrote it back in 2004 to 2009. In fact, maybe I need to do a sequel. The whores are back. In any event, the people of this country are smarter. That's the United States. And the people of Israel are smarter. And no way these people are going to win any election. I'm not endorsing anyone. I don't do that as the head of Freedom Watch. I do it personally in a few occasions, with regard to Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who's running for sheriff again in Arizona, and also Chief Justice Roy Moore, who's running for Senate against that worthless human being by the name of Jeff Sessions, who's also running for Senate because he has no place else to go. He's never had a real job in the private sector, so I guess he needs employment with his friends in Washington, D.C. But it's interesting what's going on right now. You look at Israel, they had an election yesterday. I'm not a big fan of Prime Minister Netanyahu, even though he grew up in Philadelphia, my birthplace. And even though he has an American accent, he's been far too weak. I was hoping that they would get somebody stronger in as prime minister. It wasn't going to be Benny Gantz. Benny Gantz is a pretty weak individual in his own right, even though he was the head of the Israeli Defense Forces. But Netanyahu has allowed the power of Iran to grow over the last decades. Hamas, Hezbollah, their proxies. But he's best of the worst over there in Italy. And of course, you know, he was set up politically. He was indicted for alleged crimes dealing with his wife bringing in a caterer to the prime ministerial mansion. If you don't have a mansion in Israel, they don't have that kind of resource. But in any event, we'll call it that. And also for seeking to exert influence on the media to write favorable stories. Now, what politicians in this country doesn't do that? But he was indicted because the leftist minister of finance in Israel is opposed to him politically, but the people of Israel now are pushing back, and his party, the Likud party, has actually gained seats. I don't know if they'll have enough to form a government, but you can see the reaction. And you can see what happened to Boris Johnson in Great Britain. He gained popularity over the last months and was able to push through Brexit. Europe, like the United States, is going through a right-wing reactionary period. They've had it with the leftists. Europe has not just been invaded with Muslims from the Middle East, which are bringing a lot of terror to Europe. Not just terror, but, you know, wholesale raping of women and all kinds of other things. Not all Muslims are bad people. I'm not saying that. But these are people that came from Syria. There's a large number of them who are terrorist related. There's a large number of them who, in their culture, believe that women are so inferior you can do what you want with them. You can rape them, you can assault them, you can do whatever you want. And that is affecting Europe. And now, of course, you have the coronavirus coming in because governments like Italy let everybody in. And obviously the Trump administration is not allowing that to happen, but we're still having an issue here. We let in too many people, frankly, in places that haven't been screened. And let's be honest about that. And now it's proliferating, coronavirus, not just in California, but in Washington State, in New York, in Florida, and other cities on the coasts where these people come in from entry. The worldwide Western world is reacting against uncontrolled immigration that no one knows who's coming in. They're not only terrorizing the country, the nation, some of them, not all of them, and I'm pro-immigration, actually, as long as it's legal immigration. I've always been pro-immigration, and bringing diseases with them. So what you're seeing right now is a backlash. And I want to get back to the bottom line here, is that Larry Klayman and Freedom Watch and in his private practice, we're conservative, we're proudly conservative, but we're nonpartisan. And I've always brought lawsuits against Republicans as well as Democrats. But right now we've got the Bidens. They're an issue that have to be dealt with. These people are master criminals. They're a fraud. You see that broad Cheshire grin of Joe Biden. That's his facade all these years to go off and do things that are illegal. I mean, plagiarizing works of other politicians, dealing with Ukraine and stuffing money into his pocket and the pocket of his son. These people need to be held accountable. I'm doing whatever I can to help them accountable, just not private lawsuits, but citizens' grand juries. The Bidens will be indicted. They will be tried. They will be fried peacefully and legally. They will be sentenced. And we will ask the president to carry those sentences out. And if not, we'll try to find a way to do it peacefully and legally. Same thing for little Pete Buttigieg and Elizabeth Warren. They didn't have the African-American vote. People just don't trust them in the African-American community. There are radicals in the African-American community, but most African-Americans know the score. They know what's going on. They're good people, and they don't want to vote for these frauds. So they tried to pander to the African-American community before they bailed out of the race, and they called George Zimmerman on the 25th birthday of Trayvon Martin, white supremacist, someone who engaged in gun violence, someone who's a racist. Well, you know what? You do that, you stick your neck out like that, claiming falsities. Larry Klayman, in this case with his client George Zimmerman, is going to legally take action. And we did. And we sued Buttigieg and Warren. You can go to larryklayman.com to see that complaint that's proceeding. So let the word go out to everyone that we will use the powers of the courts and whatever powers we have peacefully and legally, including citizens' grand juries, which also are legal, to bring about justice in this country, because we don't have a Justice Department. It's a joke. It simply does not exist. And in the courts, even, some of the good judges like Judge Royce Lamberth, they're so hesitant to do anything at the right period of time. Going back, I'm thankful to Judge Lamberth for what he did during the Clinton years, allowing me to depose the White House, et cetera. But he had the ability to put Hillary Clinton away at that time behind bars. And he didn't when George W. Bush got elected. Judges from Texas, I guess he felt that he had completed his mission to some extent. But now we have him ordering the deposition of Hillary Clinton for Judicial Watch in a Freedom of Information Act case. You know what? It's too little, too late. No one cares about Hillary Clinton anymore. No one cares what she did. I've brought lawsuits. We could have used the information. We've sought that deposition as well. And instead, he dismisses a suit that I brought for Sheriff Joe Arpaio, claiming we didn't plead malice with a great specificity. Sheriff Arpaio, who was a convicted felon. Well, that case is now back in front of Lamberth. I hope he rethinks it. But these judges, and Lamberth is the best that's out there, they themselves play politics. And although Lamberth is someone who should remain on the bench and who I thank for what he's done, I don't talk to him about cases that I have, but I consider him a friend. He's not been bold enough either. And we need to have judges on our bench that'll do the job, that'll take these politicians out legally. Because without the protections of the judiciary, these politicians and others in our society run rampant. They run wild. And that's why you have a Freedom Watch. And that's why go to freedomwatchusa.org, support our cause, contribute to what we're doing, support our legal defense funds, the Cliven Legal Defense Fund.org, which is a private defense fund, which I'm representing Cliven in some cases in my private capacity. The Corsi Legal Defense Fund.com. Is Biden And you need to really rise up. The American people need to do it for themselves. We cannot rely on government. We do not have a government that represents us. The president does, but no one even in his own administration backs him up, except for a few people. So that's my message for today. Get up off the couch. Put the popcorn down. Put the Diet Coke or beer, whatever you're drinking, down. Join Freedom Watch's Justice League. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Play a role in a peaceful and legal revolution before we lose our country. Because you know what? The horrors are back, and they're back stronger than ever. Share this podcast at radioamerica.com, at freedomwatchusa.org. You can find it on Spotify, iTunes, Patreon, Facebook, everywhere, YouTube. Share it, get the word out, and play a role in saving our country. Thank you for listening to me. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America, and God save America. And I'll be back tomorrow with another special podcast.
Hey, I'm Andy, and I started Harry's, the shaving company that's fixing shaving. At Harry's, we keep it simple. We make sharp, durable blades and offer them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We obsess over quality so much that we do crazy things, like buy a German razor blade factory. So give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry's starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for only $3 with free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 5 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 5. 5.